You know, so you might think, well, now I better start doing this thing, even though I feel in my being that I need to do something else, you know, that brings me joy or peace. My mind is saying, no, forget joy and peace now. We can't afford that. You need to sacrifice joy and peace now because you need to start doing stuff to prepare for what we think is going to happen tomorrow. And that's more important. Tomorrow's moment's more important than today's moment. That's the problem. It's a lie. It's wrong. When you're in alignment with God, when you're in alignment with the source, when you're in alignment with peace and joy, today's peace is what matters. And that will lead to tomorrow's peace and tomorrow's joy. But most of us run around sacrificing all that for tomorrow. And then tomorrow will come and we'll sacrifice it again for the next day. And this repeats and repeats for years. You be 90 years old, having never lived in a moment, always in the future, waiting for this there to arrive that never comes. There's no there. The journey is the reward, they say. It's true. So, yeah, so I realized that's why time. And what is time? You know, man existed for thousands of years without clocks. They were more intuitive, more spiritual, more in alignment with the natural flows of life. You have a strong intuitive sense. It's just that we've been taught to ignore it and listen instead to the lower mind's ramblings about what we should do and what we have to do and fear and all this. So one way that I'm going to start doing, which I've done before, is to not look at clocks. Just ignore them and go more by my internal guidance about what I feel I should be doing in that moment. Another thing that stresses me out is to-do lists. And normally we think of to-do lists being a good thing, but what I've learned is that when you're in tune with the spirit, there's like a spiritual to-do list. It's like you have these angelic assistants that will prompt you right at the perfect time with your item that you need to do. So right when you need to go get the kids from school, you'll be prompted. The kids? It's like, oh yeah, I gotta get the kids from school. You go get them. Next thing, you know, gotta go get some food. Oh yeah, let me go. And the cool thing about this is you don't have to think about it all day. It doesn't have to be in your face all the time. Whereas what usually happens is the lower mind says you need a to-do list, so you need to write it down. So you write it down, and then you look at it, and it stresses you out. Why? The same reason as clocks do. Because your inner guidance is saying do one thing, which makes you feel joy and peace, but then your lower mind sees the mental to-do list that you wrote and says, nope, you can't do this thing that brings you joy and peace because at 3 o'clock, which is right now, you're supposed to do this other thing. And then you go do it, and you left the moment. Now you might say, well, how do you get stuff done this way? It's a very interesting method because stuff does happen, and you do get things done, and you can do them in a much more joyful, peaceful way, but it requires trusting. You have to trust that something else is happening. It's not just what your mind thinks. A lot of times when we let our lower mind shut down, we assume that nothing's going to happen, but that's not true. A lot will happen. But you got to be quiet and trust. It might take a while, a couple hours, before you get used to that, like twiddling your thumbs, like, well, what am I doing? Shouldn't I be doing something? Don't I have a lot to do? But eventually inspiration will hit and spirit will, you know, prompt you. Do this, do that, go here, call this person. And it's joyful and it's fun. And you don't have to worry about things. So, we had this event about 2 weeks ago, a month ago, and you know, I was in my car, so I didn't have my to-do list in front of me, and it was amazing how much I got done. I would just get in my car with no plan and just go, and then I would get prompted, you know, go to this place, go to that place, call this person, talk to this person. And it would just happen. It was like I had this invisible assistant right there. Whereas when you come with that mental to-do list, it's like static. It conflicts. You know, the spirit knows what you need to do in that moment, but your mind might say, well, no, because yesterday we wrote down that we need to call Joe at 6 o'clock. Well, that was a thought you had yesterday. Maybe today you need to call Mike instead of Joe at 6 o'clock. And only God knows why. Maybe Joe isn't even there. Maybe Joe's not really interested.